We will start with the introduction of environmental communication. Introduction to environmental communication. Here are the subtopics of the introduction. To get started, we need to have a basic understanding of environmental communication. In general, environmental communication means literally talking about the environment or environmental affairs respectively. In this broader sense, everyone who speaks about it does it, if it's a prime minister, a CEO, a TV moderator, an author, the citizens of a town, a blogger, or just friends discussing environmental matters. This means that whenever you discuss environmental issues, or express your views on issues related to the environment, you are practicing environmental communication. With this basic definition of environmental communication in mind, we can then discuss how to communicate about the environment. According to Robert Cox, environmental communication can be addressed through these 7 areas: environmental rhetoric and discourse, media and environmental journalism, public participation in environmental decision-making, social marketing and advocacy campaigns, environmental collaboration and conflict resolution, risk communication, representations of nature in popular culture, and green marketing. The picture on the left illustrates the third point, namely environmental communication through the media. From these 7 points, we can know the complexity and the variety of how environmental matters can be discussed about and what ways of application they cover. Another overview covers the following additional elements which show further ways to conduct environmental communication: sustainability marketing, environmental research, environmental communication in politics, government, and advocacy, e.g. global warming, water shortages, agriculture practices, etc., health communication, environmental marketing and public relations. Similar to the ways of conducting environmental communication, the levels on which environmental communication takes place can also be manifold. As described at the beginning, this happens basically everywhere, when such matters are mentioned and discussed. In general, environmental communication can take place on these 6 levels: United Nations, which is globally, government or state level, corporation, NGOs, university and other elements of the public sector, individuals. All levels are relevant to establish a comprehensive approach for a sustainable future. However, the corporate level is the one with the most direct and strongest impact on the environment. That's why we will focus on this particular field. It is also important to note that the public plays an important role in all of these cases, since the general population sets the course by adopting sustainable patterns and habits while being affected and directed by governmental guidelines or corporate, marketing, communication strategies. The image on the right shows the role of the public level in environmental communication. But what does environmental communication on corporate level contain? ISO, the International Organization for Standardization, has come up with a series of guidelines to create a common understanding of environmental factors that need to be taken into account to achieve a more ecologically sustainable future, and organizational management systems to ensure an appropriate level of addressing them on a continuous basis. Part of the series is the standard ISO 14063, which covers the area of environmental communication and provides guidelines of how to set it up properly across the organization. That means from top management over marketing practices to values among the employees. ISO 14063 Principles of Environmental Communication includes the 5 following aspects. The first one is transparency. This means the information are available to all interested parties. Interested parties are informed of their role in environmental communication. The second one is appropriateness. This means the formats, language and media that meet the interested parties' interests and needs, enabling them to participate fully. The communication takes into account diversity, inclusion and gender of the interested parties. The third one is credibility, which means the information provided is true, accurate and publicly available. It should not be reported in a biased manner that may mislead participants. The fourth one is clarity. Environmental communication approaches and language are understandable to interested parties to minimize ambiguity. The fifth one is regionality, which means the environmental communication should take into consideration the local or regional environmental context relevant to the area where the corresponding environmental impact occurs. There are 3 elements of environmental communication. The first one is how to communicate within and outside the organization. The second one is values of the organization. The third one is internal guidelines, codes of conduct. Core element of environmental communication is the environmental policy, which is the heart of any organization's public statement regarding environmental matters. The flowchart on the right side shows the interrelationships and flow of environmental communication. When we try to form environmental communication strategy, the following points should be taken into consideration. Integrating environmental communication into the organization's general communication process. Resource efficiency. Establishing environmental communication objectives. Identifying interested parties. Steps to conduct the environmental communication activities. The conducting starting with planning, which include general, situation, setting objectives, identifying target groups, defining geographic scope and defining environmental information. Then comes to the determining of content, which includes selecting environmental communication content, approaches and tools, defining responsibilities and involvement, include internal and external, tracking input from interested parties, planning for environmental communication activities on environmental crises and emergencies, and establishing a communication plan. Finally, performing the environmental communication activity, which includes collecting and evaluating data, conducting environmental communication activities, recording and responding to feedback, evaluating environmental communication, conducting management review and planning revisions.